You're watching Exit 1055 with your host, Richard Rose.
Hey, good morning, I'm Richard Rose. Welcome to Exit 1055 Long Island. This is your TV 1055 show about all things Long Island. In just a few moments on this Sunday morning, welcoming in the month of October, a new fall edition, a dedicated place of tranquility in the town of Babylon for the many families dealing with early Alzheimer's and onset dementia. But we begin with the new school year. For higher learning at 2-year and 4-year state education colleges and universities, there's something new. Governor Andrew Cuomo's free tuition plan. What impact is it having on enrollments as tens of thousands of students head to first semester classes this fall? Is it meeting a need? Well, to help answer that and much more, joining us right now is Dr. Samuel Stanley, guest of our show in the past, and he's the president of Stony Brook University, which has seen a huge expansion over the past decade. Welcome to the show, Dr. Stanley.
So good to be back.
First off, let me ask you about Governor Cuomo's free tuition plan, much touted. Did you actually see an impact? Were students taking you up on it? How many enrolled and were accepted?
So I think it's definitely having an impact, and it was highly touted, and really I think got national attention for public universities and public education in New York. We saw about 600 students taking advantage of it all total at Stony Brook. That's about $2 million essentially in benefits they're going to get, and about 300 students or so in the first-year class. I think that may underestimate the eventual impact because, as you know, the bill was passed relatively late, so parents and students may have made their mind up about where they were going to go to college. But I think we may see more impact even next year.
So as it gets more advertised, you think maybe next year you might even have more people applying for it?
I think that's very likely. And they're good students, too. And I think they fell into two categories. I think some were students that were thinking about perhaps going to another university, but when they saw what was happening with SUNY schools, they changed their mind. And others were those who were thinking of going to community colleges. But because Stony Brook now and other four-year publics had become so affordable, they switched and they're coming instead.
Now, we're just talking tuition with this. It doesn't cover boarding or book costs or anything.
Absolutely. It just covers tuition. And what happens is it's about for families that make up to $110,000 in this year, but then eventually it'll go up to $120,000.
Yeah, that's the plan. And, you know, there are some people, no matter what you do, they're not going to be happy. They're saying, okay, well, this doesn't really necessarily help low-income people because they're already covered for the most part by grant money, right, by TAP money. But is that true, by the way? Are they mostly covered?
I think that is true. So the lowest income families are covered by both the New York Tuition Assistance Program, TAP, as well as Pell Grants from the federal government. But this is helping families who were taking on debt and were taking on a burden to pay for tuition for their families. I think that is helping them.
And clearly, definitely helping the middle class. So a lot of times the middle class will complain that whatever tax break comes through, it never helps them. But in this case, it does, right? Explain how that does.
It really does, because, again, it's extending those income levels. So it was families up to $40,000 for Pell, $70,000 for some components of TAP, and now you're taking that up to $120,000. So you're really expanding the number of people who can benefit.
There were some worries on and maybe they still continue. We'll hear from them soon, I think, private institutions like Hofstra, that maybe this will drain away their students. Do you think it's having that kind of impact?
I think it is having some impact, just from what I read, that the information that private universities are putting out, maybe 7%, 8% declines in some places in terms of applications.
That could be significant, though.
Could be significant.
Especially if a college is close on meeting its demands. That's not the case at Stony Brook. It's been a success story. You guys got ranked, I think it was U.S. News and World Report, top 100 in the nation. That's a new height for you guys. You're talking about being compared to all the prestigious universities across this country, of which there are many. What do you credit that to? I mean, of course, you love it, and you ought to probably say that it's something they already knew. Yeah. But what do you think led to them increasing your ranking that high?
You know, I think we've been working on the fundamentals. So we've been working on things like really building an outstanding research program, continuing to attract some of the best faculty in the world, and, of course, as we just talked about, attracting lots of outstanding students. We had 35,000 applicants, essentially, for 3,100 spots in our first-year class.
35,000 people applied for only 3,100 spots?
Correct. Correct.
That's so 90% of them couldn't, more than 90% couldn't get in.
Well, we end up accepting 11,000. 3,100 come from those 11,000 that decide to come. But that's still very selective among public universities. There's many public universities, for example, that take 50, 60% of the applicants. So we're much more selective than that. But I think that combination of great students, great faculty, and great research programs, I think the word's really gotten out. And the other thing is what we've been able to do with our graduation rates. We've been able to push our graduation rates up more than 10% just over the past 5 years. So students know they're going to come to Stony Brook, they're going to be able to succeed, they're going to graduate, and then they're going to go on to get a great job. So one of the figures we're most excited about is the fact that we ranked #3 of all universities and colleges in the country for mobility. So in other words, we're #3 in the nation of taking students who come from families in the bottom 20% of income and getting them into the top 20% of income. So that, again, is a great success story.
How many students you have there now?
So we have about 26,000 students.
26,000. That has grown how much, say, compared to 20 years ago?
Oh, probably about 30% increase from about 20 years ago or so.
So it's like a small city there. And of course, you know, you can be a victim of your own success. You just talked about your high ranking and how you're seeing more students come in and so many more wanting to come in that can't get in because there's only room for so many. You build a new dorm rooms because you've heard the complaints in the community.
Yes.
Because there's so many students looking for a place to live. Sometimes they wind up in these illegal setups. Sometimes there are college parties that get allowed. Neighbors get upset. What are you doing about that to try to meet that need?
So as you said, we've been building more dorms. We just completed the really deluxe dorms, I think, that we have. More than 700 beds were added. So we're now up to about 11,000 bed capacity on the campus. The thing is that actually is enough to meet the demand that we have for housing on campus. But as you may remember, it turns out that a lot of students do like to live off campus, that they don't
choose that anyway.
Exactly, choose that anyway. So for that, we're really working with the community to make sure these houses are safe, to make sure that the zoning, to help the community make sure that our students recognize the need to live in houses that have appropriate zoning for what they're doing. And then again, we work really hard with our students to make sure they're good neighbors in every way that we can.
Yeah, because they are ambassadors, because the neighbors, they don't think about what you just said. They just think there's another Stony Brook student that is making noise on my block.
Exactly.
So, I mean, but clearly you can't be held accountable for people who choose to live elsewhere. That's their choice.
They're adults and they're allowed to do that, correct.
So now there's been talk about possibly having more expansion of high school students getting advanced placement courses in 2-year and 4-year colleges. Are you doing that, or are you looking at that?
Yeah, no, we do that, and we honor a lot of advanced placement. In fact, that's actually helpful for Excelsior, because Excelsior, one of the things about Excelsior, the program we talked about for tuition, is you have to graduate in 4 years to receive the full benefit. You can't go longer than 4 years. So that's actually where advanced placement credits help. So we're going to continue to honor those. It's part of the way, again, in which we attract great students to come to Stony Brook, because we do take advantage of those AP credits.
Well, there must be a reason people love going there. And Dr. Samuel Stanley with Stony Brook University recently ranked in the top 100 by U.S. News and World Report across the nation. Many advances going on there and still many challenges. You have to build more dorm rooms, they say. Thank you, Dr. Stanley.
Thank you.
Thanks for chatting with us. And when we return, proof that you can fight City Hall, or as in this case of the search for a missing Nassau County dog, Village Hall. Stay with us. We'll explain.